Well, things don't always turn out as planned. Brother Noor and Brother Henschel had a service tour of countries in Africa. One of those was Nigeria, and they were to give talks at 2 conventions. One of those conventions was 400 miles away and involved a road trip. So they got off to an early start at 3:30 in the morning. On the end of the trip, they started to have car problems. Those car problems turned into a grueling 18-hour delay, and they realized they weren't going to make the convention. So they decided to go back to the branch in Lagos. But the return trip took 24 hours through jungle roads and additional car problems. They get back to the branch, they take a very brief rest, and they're on to the next branch.
Well, the headquarters representatives wanted the best for delegates to a convention. Brothers Noor and Henschel were known to personally inspect venues and even negotiate contracts. In more recent times, Brother Jaracz personally visited hotels to make sure that there was a proper standard of comfort and cleanliness. He even tested out the beds.
What beautiful reminders of the efforts our brothers made to serve our spiritual family.
If you say so, I guess. I just find some of the stories in this segment, the governing body preserves unity, utterly underwhelming. I mean, really? This is the best we've got to show the best of the governing body throughout history. Again, there was no governing body prior to the 1970s, but this is the best. Nathan Noor and Milton Henschel having car trouble. I mean, where's Jehovah's hand there? How come there's no story of them miraculously making it? Surely what we're seeing there is the inevitable result of poor planning, or basically a human organization where things go wrong. And how are we supposed to be impressed that Henschel and Noor and Brother Jaracz, Theodore Jaracz, took a special interest in which hotels were booked for conventions? Brother Jaracz even took on the weighty assignment of testing the beds personally.
Brother Jaracz personally visited hotels to make sure that there was a proper standard of comfort and cleanliness. He even tested out the beds.
Hold on a minute. Before we book this hotel, there's one issue that needs to be resolved. Are the beds comfortable enough? We need to figure this out. We can't have our brothers and sisters using this hotel if the beds aren't comfortable. Someone needs to take on the weighty responsibility of testing the beds in this hotel. And I, Theodore Jaracz, am willing to assume that responsibility. Wow, impressive. Thanks for sharing that anecdote with us. That's going to stay with me forever. But what I also noticed, maybe you caught it too, when they were interviewing one of the minions who was pretending to know all about Jehovah's Witness history, you see in the background, maybe Tibor can overlay it if he's gracious, you see paintings behind him. I'm pretty sure that's a painting of Fred Franz in the middle, and to the right of Fred Franz, I could be wrong, that looks like it could be a painting of Milton Henschel. This is new to me. I'm used to them showing photographs of former governing body members. But just think about this. If you're one of Jehovah's Witnesses watching this, you may think this is no big deal, but just think about this for a minute. Some Bethelite has been tasked with spending time, considerable time, in the art department, painting a governing body member. Someone who's just supposed to be there to serve the sheep. A humble man, a faithful and discreet man, who's no greater, no more prominent than other Jehovah's Witnesses, and yet his portrait is being painted in the art department so that it can be hung on the wall at one of the Bethel facilities. And not just one, but all of them, apparently, or multiple former governing body members who have since passed on. They're being commemorated in that way. It sort of speaks to this being a very human organization, doesn't it? Maybe it's just me, but there's a whiff of idolatry here, isn't there? I was always brought up to think that it would be idolatry to do that sort of thing, to make any kind of image of anyone or anything as part of religious worship. Either these men are to be considered as just ordinary Jehovah's Witnesses who just happen to have a particular privilege of service, or not. What we're seeing there, coincidentally, because this organization is quite frankly deluded enough to miss details like this, it's normal for them, for individuals to be given this amount of prominence, so they've missed it. But what we're getting here is a clue to the true nature of the organization. This is a hierarchy where the higher up you climb in the organizational ladder, the more prominence you will be given.